I'm thinking Chief Mahoney is here with us tonight in connection with another matter. And I believe when Beach came on the council, Ross was just joining the Ross Valley Fire Department. And Beach was on the board of directors of that department and saw changes there, including most recently our decision to close the firehouse here as of next year with the paramedics remaining in Ross. But Beach also made lots of contributions to other organizations in the county, including TAM, Transportation Authority of Marin, and other entities. He was a staunch believer in transparency, consistent application of town policies and ordinances. And I thought also was a big proponent of just keeping things on a personal plane. I know it was kind of painful during COVID when we all had to meet via Zoom. And I remember Beach being an advocate for opening back up to in-person meetings just as soon as possible. And I also think sometimes of Beach's, advice. I'm not sure. Anyways, my interpretation of what Beach was telling us, which is don't overthink things. Sometimes things that can be pretty direct and pretty simple, which I found Beach to be very, very direct, but in a very courteous and very professional way. Just a really great experience serving with Beach, in my case, for the last 4 years. So Beach, with that introduction, let me present both of these resolutions, and we have a gift for you.
I'm going to read the one from Katie Rice. Yeah, I think you should.
All right, I've received
Coaching.
some coaching from another former mayor who asked that I read, which I'd be happy to do, the resolution from the county via Katie Rice. And sorry, Beach, I didn't mean to drag you up here that soon, but okay, are you ready? So this is resolution of the Board of Supervisors, County of Marin. Whereas Councilmember P. Beachcool has served his community, friends, and neighbors with unwavering love, dedication, and humor over 12 years of the Rosstown Council, on the Rosstown Council. Whereas Councilmember Cool brought with him a wealth of experience, a history of transformative leadership, and a lifelong commitment to public service, and gave tirelessly of himself to his role on the council and many associated assignments. And whereas Councilmember Cool's tenure on the Rosstown Council has been marked by a series of indelible contributions to District 2 and the County of Marin, including serving on the Homelessness Committee of Marin, Marin County Council of Mayors and Council Members Legislative Committee, Ross Valley Fire Board, and 12 years on the Transportation Authority of Marin. And whereas Councilmember Cool's tenure on the Rosstown Council has been characterized by a caring attitude toward all stakeholders, demonstrated through regular engagement with Ross residents, town staff, and the county, creating an environment where voices are heard and contributions are valued. And whereas Councilmember Cool's leadership, ethical standards, and commitment to fairness and equity have left a lasting mark on the people he has worked with and the community he has served. And whereas P. Beachcool has been a source of information, prompted reflection, and has been a source of inspiration, prompted reflection, and brought humor to the fore just when needed. His colleagues and community have all benefited from his compassionate perspective and wise counsel. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Marin, and especially District 2 Supervisor Katie Rice, extends their deepest gratitude to Councilmember Paul Beachcool for his outstanding contributions to the town of Ross, the Ross Valley, and the County of Marin. Passed and adopted at this regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Marin held on the 16th day of April.
So I made similar remarks when Elizabeth Breckus was here in April. And as Bill mentioned, you know, you've given tirelessly to the county with the Ross Valley Fire Department Board and president of that, the Legislative Committee, the Homelessness Committee, and TAM for 12 years. But I wanted to do the math with you serving the town of Ross. And by serving as mayor for 3 years, I calculated that you met with the town manager 36 times, 36 months times 52 weeks per year. And then you also served as mayor pro tem, and you did a similar amount of meetings for that. You served 12 years on the Ross Town Council, so I lowballed that and assumed 12 meetings times 12 years, which is 144 meetings. So based on your service as mayor and meeting with the town manager, I got 1,872 hours. And as mayor pro tem, I got 1,872 hours. And serving on the town council, 432 hours in town council meetings. Plus, I assume only 2 hours for you, because I saw the notes you took, like one word in your manila folder. But 2 hours of prep for each of those meetings, so that's 288 hours. And when you add up all those hours, it's 4,464 hours, Beach, that you have given the town of Ross. And I'm probably lowballing your billable rate when you are a partner in your law firm. So I'm assuming $500 per hour times 4,464 is $2.232 million of service that you have given to the town of Ross. And we just want to thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you. I'm not going to make a long speech. I'll just say I enjoyed every one of those hours. Thanks.
All right, so let's then move on to, yes? It's on. I'm afraid I'm shouting into the microphone. If it's too loud, let me know. I'll move even closer. So we're going to now move on to item 4 on the agenda, a presentation by Chief Mahoney and Chief Pata.
Good evening, Mayor Kircher, members of the council, and Town Manager Johnson. I want to introduce to you a new program that we're going to roll out this July. Each year we try to do a little bit more than we did the year before. And, every year red flag fire warnings and fire dangers are very important. And we're finally going to be able to create some messaging for our residents. Chief Mahoney here is going to tell you a little bit about what a red flag fire signs or fire warnings are. But before he gets into that, I just wanted to show you a couple things that we did here. I purchased 4 of these signs for the town. It's like I said, it's new to Ross. It's not a new program. Red flag warnings have been going on for a while, but we'll be doing them here now. And these signs, they're portable, so we can take them with us every day. The officers will put them out into conspicuous areas of our town that might have, a little more vulnerability to fire danger and have a lot of traffic so that people can actually see the warning. We have 4 locations that we've tentatively identified as being where we're going to place these signs, up in the area on 40 Wellington area by the tree there, Bolinas Avenue at Glenwood, Lagunitas Road at Ross Common, and Laurel Grove at Monte Alegre. Additionally, there will be another sign that is placed by the rangers at Natalie Coffin Green Park. And again, what these temporary signs will do is just to create messaging about the fire hazard, the potential of fire hazard for that day. And then when the hazard isn't there, we'll pick them up and take them with us. And each day we'll be rolling them out when the hazard does exist. And finally, another plan we're going to do this year is we're going to increase our activity for checking on roads that have access problems. So along with the signs, we do it anyway as a matter of our patrol duties, but especially on red flag days, we will drive some of our streets that have access problems to make sure that a fire truck and an ambulance can get up there. I'm going to be asking the community to be our eyes as well. So there's one or two of us that are on duty. We may miss a street or two. So I'm going to be asking the community to call us, please, on our non-emergency line so that we can get up there and take care of that problem. So, Chief Mahoney.
Excuse me, Mayor. I'd just like to announce Chief Dan Mahoney's appointment by the Ross Valley Fire Department Board last night as the fire chief, and congratulate him and thank him for serving Ross Valley Fire all those years, but then especially this past year as the interim chief. And so congratulations to you for getting the appointment. You're official. We've got you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Chief.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Good evening, council. How do I switch slides?
Yeah, you need to make it a presentation. There you go. And then
Just over here. Okay, great. Great. Good evening. I was asked to come do a quick presentation on red flag warning, and I thought, how can I make this presentation a little bit different than maybe what you've heard before? So we're going to get into a little bit of some of the common questions and a little bit of fire science, not too much, but just a little bit, so that everybody kind of understands when the National Weather Service posts a red flag and what that actually means. And the whole idea behind this is to hopefully help educate, which will ultimately calm some anxieties when you hear about the red flag. So first of all, we've all seen this, and a lot of folks may understand it and be able to comprehend exactly what it means, but by the end of this presentation, you should be able to understand everything within this red flag warning that the National Weather Service posts. 3 common questions that we get: what does a red flag warning mean? How can I prepare for before a red flag warning? And what should I do when one is issued? So first of all, what does a red flag warning mean? It means there's a potential for wildfire to spread rapidly due to weather and fuel conditions. The Weather Service uses 3 common factors to determine this: fuel moisture, relative humidity, and sustained wind. You realize that I crossed off high temperatures because that is not a factor in what dictates a red flag. Usually, all of these 3 factors up above come with some warmer weather, but that's not a factor that the Weather Service takes into play. So fuel moisture, what is fuel moisture? It's the amount of moisture that's in a fuel. So the amount of moisture in the fuel determines how fast that fuel will burn. So green grass does not burn as fast as dry grass. The Weather Service uses twigs and small branches to determine how much how much moisture is in a fuel. The smaller the diameter of the fuel, the faster it will burn. Long periods of no rain equal drier fuels. Long, hot summer days equal drier fuels. The latter part of the summer equals even more drier fuels is when we usually see these red flag warnings posted towards September and October. So the number one, not the number one factor, but a factor in red flag warning calculations is fuel moisture. Another factor is relative humidity, usually coming with low humidity. The amount of moisture in the air contributes to how much moisture a fuel can absorb. Fuels try to absorb moisture in the air. The less moisture in the air, the drier the fuel is. So low humidity is a factor in a red flag warning. And last but not least, wind. Wind increases the amount of available oxygen for the fire and increases its intensity. It's one of the biggest factors in fire spread. It pushes flames horizontally and preheats fuels adjacent to allow them to more readily burn, which increases the rate of spread of a wildfire. It also carries sparks embers ahead of the main fire. Back in 2017, when we had the fires up in Napa in Sonoma County, at night when the fires ignited, the temperature was in the mid-70s, but the wind was in the 40s, 50s, and 60-mile-an-hour range. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a baseline of how temperature isn't factored into it. So up above, fuel moisture, low humidity, and wind. There is an orange highlight up there that talks about low fuel moisture. So if we have low fuel moisture, if there's not a lot of water in a fuel, we go over to the left-hand side of the chart highlighted in green, and we look at whatever the relative humidity is. And then we look at what is the expected wind speed highlighted in yellow, and that will ultimately get us to whether it's a red flag warning or not. And this is the exact chart that the National Weather Service uses. So for example, if we had low fuel moisture, we had a relative humidity of about 30%, and we had a sustained wind speed of 30 miles an hour, that would cause a red flag warning. So now when we go back and we look at this and we're sitting at home and this flashes up on the screen, you'll see that the highlighted areas are obviously the red flag warning areas. It talks about specific North Bay mountains. It talks about a time. And you'll notice that there is a wind down here. Right here, to talk about the wind. And you'll see it's 10 to 20 miles an hour, and peaks are up to 50 miles an hour. So this is one of the main factors in a red flag warning and what they calculate. And then it's hard to see here, but it says poor relative humidity. So that's humidity. And I have a feeling that they don't put fuel moisture on here because they don't want to confuse people. But so now when you see this, you'll kind of have a better understanding of what metrics are used to dictate whether it's a red flag or not. So the next question people ask is, how can I prepare before a red flag warning? So only you can prepare yourself. Please do not rely on others to prepare you. So you have to be proactive. Being proactive means signing up for emergency alerts, providing defensible space around your house, implementing home hardening measures, filling out an evacuation checklist, a wildland survival checklist, review your evacuation maps, and identify multiple evacuation routes. And this can all be found on firesafemarin.org. Alert Marin is where you can go to register for emergency alerts. FireSafe Marin will provide you with direction on providing defensible space around your house. There's 4 different zones. The closer to the house you get, the less vegetation you should have. Home hardening measures. Home hardening measures are defined as enclosing your home as much as you can to reduce embers from falling either into your gutters or embers blowing into your attic vents. These are all measures that are outlined in FireSafe Marin on how to perform these home measuring duties. Evacuation maps. So for the town of Ross, there's a Shady map and there's a Wellington map. These are two maps that are designed specifically for Ross that provide residents with information on evacuation tips and emergency evacuation routes. Keep in mind that these evacuation routes are identified in a map, but it's no telling where a fire is going to start or where it's going to go. So you need to have multiple different ways to evacuate depending on where the fire is. What should I do when evacuation warning is coming? Well, this is the time where you put your hard work and your plan into action. You should review the evacuation checklist, review the survival checklist, perform a walk around your house, avoid activities that involve fire, and stay vigilant. So these are the evacuation survival checklist and the evacuation checklist. These can be found on FireSafe Marin. They can also be found right behind me, my left-hand shoulder, in a table. I brought some handouts for you all. Some other things you can do is walk around your house. You can remove some leaves from the gutters if some have fallen in there prior to you removing them during the summertime. Removing wicker lawn furniture and cushions away from the house. Wood piles should remain away from the house. And last but not least, the flammable doormats. They are made of different materials that are usually pretty fine to pick up all of the dust when you wipe your feet on it. But all you need is one ember to land on one of those doormats, and if nobody's around, it has a high potential to catch your house on fire. Activities to avoid. I think this is common sense, but it's a good reminder for folks. Fire pits should not be used on red flag days. Any source of open flame. Refrain from driving through dry, grassy fields with your vehicle. And avoid, parking in dry vegetation areas. If you go up to and pull off on the side of the roadway, avoid any types of grass. And like Chief Pata mentioned, how are you going to be notified of red flag warnings? There's a lot of different ways to do that. Nixle, social media outlets, news outlets, signs on the roads, which is the new program that's being rolled out here in Ross, a weather radio, and neighbors. It's a team effort. We should all be vigilant and don't rely on somebody else letting you know when something's happening or when a red flag warning is occurring. The good thing about a lot of the different avenues now is you have a pretty good idea when a red flag warning is coming because you hear it for the first, a couple days before because of the weather outlets are letting everybody know on their weather models that it's looking like that. So, having a couple days heads up is always a good thing because that's when you can start preparing. And then, like I mentioned before, FireSafe Marin is the website to go to. Up in the top here, you'll see it says prepare yourself. There'll be a drop-down menu of everything and more that you want to know about how to prepare yourself for a wildfire. And then over here, home hardening, it'll provide you with some directions on home hardening measures. And with that, that's the end of the report, and I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from council members? Councilmember McMillan.
Chief Pata, will the town send out an email when there is a red flag warning? Yes?
Yep. And
Awesome.
we'll put it on our social media as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Chief Mahoney, I'm just wondering if you could explain why red flag warnings are so important to the correlation of the big mega fires?
So red flag warnings have those three factors that I mentioned. It's the wind, humidity, and the low fuel moisture. When all of those come into play and it instigates a red flag warning, like I mentioned before, this is the potential for fires to go from small to big very fast. It's not to say that if there's not a red flag warning that fires won't grow, but when there is a red flag warning, they grow exponentially, and especially for our topography and the smaller roads and the vegetation that we all have come here to live in, we have to understand and adapt to our vigilance when it comes to the summertime, and understanding that it's really about us to protect ourselves and our community and our families. And the red flag warnings, the National Weather Service, I don't know if you all recall, but a number of years ago, we were getting a lot of red flag warnings, and you'd wake up in the morning to be like, there's no wind, it's just a beautiful day out here. Well, a number of years ago, the National Weather Service ended up breaking up the geographical locations on where they identify red flag warnings. So before 2019, if there was a red flag warning conditions up in Lake County and Sonoma and Lake Napa, it overlapped us too. So for us now, you'll notice over the last couple of years, we really haven't had many. And it really defines when we have one now that it's our specific area and it's real. So, yep.
Any other questions on this item? Questions? I'm sorry.
Is this going to be written up in the morning after? So there'll be an article about this and all the great information?
Yes, Councilmember Dowling, Cindy is our town clerk, is our author and editor and designer of our morning after newsletter, and she has included this for the one that goes out tomorrow.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Cindy.
So I just have something quick. We're ready to move on to another item.
Yes, if we've concluded, if there are no further questions on this item,
I just want to say thank you both so much for doing this, because it's so important to have this messaging going out and to make people aware of red flag warning days. And that's when people should be nervous. And the rest of the time, people should just, kind of prepare and go about their business. But, when you have 2 to 3 days to prepare, given the red flag warning, that's when the community really needs to rally. So thank you.
yes, thank you very much for coming here tonight.
So I just have a quick question. The homeowner of 51 Sir Francis Drake, Mr. Barry, hasn't asked for this, but I wondered, could we move up 9A now, because his daughter just graduated from Ross School today, and we had earlier changed the meeting date to accommodate parents of graduates. So could we do 9A right now and then move back to the regular order?
Yes, that sounds fine. Is that all right with everyone? All right, well, let's do that then. We will move to 9A, was it?
9A.
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members.
Yes, good evening.
Tonight, the applicant at 51 Sir Francis Drake is requesting approval for design review for an interior renovation and a new rear addition to the existing 1,734 square foot home. The project is proposing to add an access hallway, a new laundry room, a primary bedroom suite and a bathroom, and a closet for a total of 632 square feet of new floor area. The exterior materials and trim for the rear addition will match the existing house, and design review is required for additions exceeding 200 square feet of new floor area. On June 21st, 2024, the ADR group all supported the project, and staff requests that the town council consider adopting resolution 2424 approving design review for the property at 51 Sir Francis Drake. Thank you.
Does any member of the council have any questions of staff at this point? All right, well then, we will hear from the applicant. The applicant and the applicant's representatives have 15 minutes. Don't feel that you have to use those 15 minutes, and feel free, if you'd rather not make a statement at this time, to pass. You always have an opportunity for rebuttal at the end.
I'm just happy
Yes.
to answer any questions that the staff or council or mayor that you guys might have, so.
Yes, thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you. We will then open this up for public comment. Does any member of the public wish to be heard on this matter? All right, I'm not seeing anyone here now. Is anyone on Zoom? Any raised hands?
There are no raised hands online.
All right, well, very good. So since there's no, I'll close comment, public comment, bring the matter back to the council.
I move we approve Resolution 2424.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling,
Aye.
Mayor Kircher,
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins,
Aye.
Councilmember Salter.
Aye.
All right, with a vote of 5, the motion passes.
Very good, thank you. All right, so now we will return to the other items on our agenda. So I believe the next matter was item 5, the mayor's report. Summer-like weather has arrived early in Ross, with temperatures rising to as much as 90 degrees under mostly blue skies. This week, schools are out for the summer break, and we're looking forward to a continuation of this great weather for our annual 4th of July parade, which will begin at 11 a.m. on the 4th, followed by a celebration and activities on the Common. The beginning of warm, dry weather, coupled with lots of rain and more vegetation, leads to increased fire risk. The Ross Valley Fire Department, Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, and other public agencies are continuing their work to reduce wildfire risk and plan effective responses and evacuation. Defensible space inspectors will be evaluating Ross properties soon to assist us in identifying measures we should take to harden our homes and create and maintain defensible space around our homes. Inspectors will prepare a detailed wildfire risk report for each property with lots of helpful information that we should follow. We all have a part to play in protecting ourselves, our families, homes, and neighbors. You can begin by signing up, if you haven't already done so, for Alert Marin. This is a very effective system and is the primary way you will be alerted to wildfire risk and receive instructions for evacuation. The most likely time a large megafire will occur is during a red flag warning day, when weather conditions are hot, there is low humidity, and winds are gusty. Please pay very close attention to these warnings and watch for signs posted around town. For more information, please visit the FireSafe Marin and Ross Valley Fire Department websites, which have a wealth of information and are terrific sources of detailed and helpful instructions and advice to assist you in getting ready for wildfires. Increasing wildfire risk, along with a host of other factors, have led many major insurers to pull back on insurance and renewal of homeowners' insurance policies, leaving many, including Ross residents, having to scramble for replacement coverage. There are important initiatives underway at the state level to stabilize the insurance market, including modifications in the way insurers set their rates that take increased wildfire risk into account. These changes should be in place and available by about December. Rates may increase as much as 20%, then moderate as insurers return to the California market. In the meantime, if you are faced with non-renewal of your policy, there is helpful information and advice on the Ross Valley Fire Department website and the FireSafe Marin website. The town is also streamlining procedures for homeowners who must replace siding on their homes as a condition to renewal of their insurance. In the meantime, be safe, enjoy your summer, and we hope to see you at the 4th of July parade and celebration on the Common. And I might add, in the morning after, which will repeat the mayor's report, there will be links to go to these various pages and websites. All right, next, council liaison and, council committee and liaison reports. Does any member of the council have a report?
I have two. The Ross Valley Paramedic Authority met, as you know, the Paramedic Authority felt they needed a study in order to decide if they can continue basing the ambulance here with a 4, or we were hoping a much longer lease. And they're still studying. That's about the best I can put it. There's a formal study that's been launched, and the data is being collected. That's the level they're at right now. That's the report. The fire board met last night, and as you may know, the board agreed with fire staff and executive staff to create a battalion chief position. And so there was a discussion or a presentation about, or document about what that job will look like. And then we also discussed the final agreement with Dan Mahoney, who is now moved from interim to our permanent fire chief.
I attended the TAM board meeting on May 23rd, and one of the items was an update from the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority on their new technology. It's an evacuation and risk assessment, and it's really new technology that evaluates evacuation risk, looking at where the fire is, who is impacted, how long it takes, what's the safety. It's actually a planning tool. It's not a tool that's used during a fire. And it's one that the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority is willing to train, for example, staff here at Ross on using that tool, because you can put in different items about what roads, what time of day it is, where the fire is located, and you can look at evacuation routes and do some tabletop exercises. So it's a really good tool. The Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority can't do it for all the towns and cities, but they're willing to train people to use this tool. It's very easy to use. So I would highly suggest that somebody look into it, and I suspect Julie may know a lot about it too. So thank you.
So I just wanted to report that the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority approved at our May meeting the budget for fiscal year 24-25. And that was with input from the Operations Committee, which Krista Johnson, Town Manager Johnson, sits on. The Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority will be beginning defensible space inspections in Ross as early as July 1st, which is great news. And lastly, the Barber Winship Firewise Neighborhood Group met with Chief Mahoney and Rob Bastion last Friday to talk about some particularly overgrown areas in the Barber Winship Firewise neighborhood. And the good news is, starting June 17th, there's going to be a lot of work done in that neighborhood to clear evacuation routes, which will be very helpful. And they're going to start in the Baywood Canyon area, which Chief Mahoney identifies as Baywood, Wellington, and Crest. And then they're moving on to other streets in the San Anselmo adjacent area. So that's really helpful. Thank you.
I would like to add one additional report here, and that is that in addition to Chief Mahoney beginning as the full fire chief, having previously been the interim chief, and the hiring of or authorization to hire a full-time battalion chief, there also was a grand opening for a new dispatch center that will be for all fire services in Marin County. So distinct from and separate from the dispatch service operated by the Sheriff's Department and other dispatch services, for example, the one in Fairfax that we use. And this was quite an undertaking and quite an impressive facility that will possibly allow for quicker and more efficient dispatch in the event of a fire. I know we're all concerned about emergency fire services in our town. But it's very interesting that it is right next to the sheriff's dispatch facility and also the Office of Emergency Services. So in the event of a major disaster, they are all able to, teams and so forth, incident teams are all able to meet together and coordinate their activities. I think this is a huge step forward. And I thought I'd mention this while we're talking. It's almost like today's theme is wildfire preparation. Well, here's another aspect to that. So it's very encouraging to see all these things happening so soon, so early in the fire season. Anyone else? Is Councilmember Salter still online? All right. Okay. So if there are no other reports, we will move on to the staff and community reports. Town Manager Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I have a few updates for you this evening. According to a recent report from our EV station provider called ChargePoint, since installing our 5 EV station ports in Ross, the town has avoided 36 tons of greenhouse gas emission. That's like planting 840 trees and letting them grow for 10 years. So great news, very significant. And big thanks to our Public Works Director, Rich Simonich, for managing that entire program. Thank you, Rich. Okay. Last week, Ross School Superintendent David Rice requested that the town contribute funding to the school's gym floor resurfacing project that's going to be taking place this summer, I believe in August. Because the town's fiscal year ending 25 budget had already been published for tonight's council meeting, I asked staff to see if any funding was available in the current year budget, as we're getting towards the end of the fiscal year. Staff was able to dig up $2,500 from various sections of the Ross Recreation budget. And in the interest of nurturing the town-Ross school partnership, my intention is to send the school a check for that amount next week. So that's within my spending authority that I have, but I just wanted to let you know that we do run programs on their gym, and we want to be good partners, and they are good partners with the town on the Ross Common, which they use for their programming. So that'll be happening. As Councilmember Robbins just reported, the Ross Valley Paramedic Authority is in the process of conducting a deployment study to make sure that Ross is still the best place for the location of the Paramedic Authority's paramedic facility. As you may recall, the Ross Valley Paramedic Authority leases this facility. They have a lease with the town of Ross, and that lease will terminate this September 30th. Although the Paramedic Authority has operated its paramedic facility in Ross for over 40 years, the consensus of the Ross Valley Paramedic Authority Board last December was that a deployment study must be completed before the authority will consider extending its lease in Ross on a longer-term basis. Last week, we learned that the study has been delayed due to the receipt of unusable data provided by the Marin County Sheriff's Office. Chief Weber, who is the executive officer for the Paramedic Authority, he reported that all parties are aware of the Paramedic Authority's desire to move this study along quickly. He plans to call a special board meeting once the study is completed. I'm not sure that we've really heard exactly how long the study is going to take, but we are all hopeful it's going to be within the next month or so. And your representative on the Paramedic Authority, Councilmember Robbins, has been very good about checking back with the Paramedic Authority on this topic, so thank you to her for that. So unfortunately, the uncertainty as to the continued existence of the Paramedic Authority's paramedic facility in the Ross Civic Center impedes the ability of the town to move forward with the redevelopment of our Civic Center. Staff is unable to begin the environmental work because the project cannot be adequately described. We don't know if there's going to be a paramedic station there. Preparing a funding plan for the project is impeded because staff doesn't know how much the project will cost. There will be a gap between what the council has saved up for the project, to build the project, and what the total project costs will be. Understanding what that gap is vital before the council can begin consider funding options. That will likely include asking residents for additional funding through a bond measure. And then meanwhile, the cost of construction continues to rise, and the longer the project is delayed, the more expensive it's going to be. In addition to keeping all of these different plates in the air on this issue, staff is moving forward with what are called enabling projects to build this project eventually. For example, the Public Works Director is starting a multi-year project that will underground the utilities along that section of Sir Francis Drake that fronts the Civic Center site. So that is an example of enabling project. But I just wanted to give you just a little status report because the council did direct me and staff to start working on the project, and this issue with the Paramedic Authority has really put quite a roadblock in it. So we'll keep you posted on that. Okay. In more upbeat news, the town of Ross's 4th of July parade and celebration is on Thursday. Guess what date? July 4th. The parade kicks off at 11 a.m. with all of our Ross favorites, including Ross Police Department, Ross Fire Department, Uncle Sam, esteemed members of the Ross Town Council, and floats of all shapes and sizes. A community picnic on the Ross Common follows the parade with live music performed by the Top Shelf Classics, the Shady Ladies, the Marin Golden Gate Barbershop Quartet, food from the Ross Police Officer Association and Forest Fire Barbecue, carnival games for the kids, and the 2nd annual Patriotic Pooch Dog Contest, and more. We are asking that Councilmember Robbins leave her grand dog at home this year. I'm just kidding. Best picture ever from last year, I think. Sign up to join the parade, volunteer, enter your dog in the contest. You can do it all by going to www.rossrecreation.org or calling the Ross Rec office at 415-453-6020. And finally, I am very proud to formally announce that on June 4th, the town received a certification letter from the state of California regarding the town's 6th cycle housing element that the town council adopted again on May 6th. This project has taken almost 2.5 years and probably about $500,000 in expenses, not counting extensive staff time. So now we have closure on the housing element document, and we can move on to the implementation of the dozens of action items identified in it. I would like to thank our acting town attorney tonight, Mary Wagner, who was working with us diligently in this process, and I really appreciate your expertise and your camaraderie, et cetera, on that process. Really a pleasure to work with and so knowledgeable. So we've been lucky to have Mary on our team. And that is it for my report. I've been asked by our representative, our RPOA, if I could please read her report to you because she's not able to be here.
Could I just ask you a question about your report? So the contribution for the gym floor, it's great that you were able to find money in this year's budget. Is that an adequate contribution, or, is it?
I think so.
Okay, and do we know what the cost of it is?
Yeah, the total cost is, they sent us an invoice, it's costing them $8,000. I think if you take, every gym class that is using that gym, and the school district also rents out the gym to other entities for basketball, so it's not just the town that's using it. So I think $2,500 is more than covers our use of it. If you're looking at it on a percentage usage basis, I think that is very well covers it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And next year, I certainly did encourage them to, when things like this comes up, if they are able to give it to us, that is part of our budget process is preferable, because then the council is the one that's actually making the decision within the context of your budget. That's definitely the ideal. Okay. Ready for the RPOA report? Okay. So this is from Marcia Skall with RPOA. To the Rostown council members, we will be sending out our next e-blast in the next day or two. Here's what our report will say. There is a call to membership for 2024. Our membership drive is underway with about 60% of our membership enrolling online. Those renewals happen annually based on when the person originally joined. That means our membership is a little more like a rolling drive. We will be continuing our reach out through the summer and into fall. Recent projects. 1, Live on the Common. Swiftie concert was an amazing success. A photo link is being added to our website. 2, new flower baskets arrived at the beginning of May and are currently on display. 3, we have a beautiful new table at the post office. Might be a good idea to let the post office know, postmistress, actually, know how happy you are that there is a second table. Maybe let her know it would be great to move it to the other side of the door. Maybe eventually she'll allow this. I'm sorry, I think that's really funny. Marcia, you are funny. Upcoming event sponsored by RPOA. Next Live on the Common is September 6th. More details to follow. Next age-friendly event will be mid-September at Cedars. The topic will be emergency preparedness. All ages will be welcome. Thank you. My apologies, Marcia Skall. End of report.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 8, the consent agenda. And we have on the consent agenda items 8A through 8I. And normally this will be all considered by and approved by one motion unless a member of the council or the public requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration. So let me ask, does any member of the council wish to remove or have removed any item for separate discussion?
So I've been informed that there are some members of the public who would like to speak to item F. So I wonder if we could remove F from the consent agenda, please.
Yes, very good. Any other items to be removed per request of the council? Does any member of the public wish to have an item removed for separate discussion?
There's no indication
raised
online.
hands. All right, thank you. So we will then proceed. Is there a motion as to
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, G, H, and I.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
With a vote of 5, vote passes.
All right, very good. Then we will move on to item 8F, Town Council to receive update on Marin County Flood District Control District activities within Flood Zone 9. Do we have a staff report from our
Public Works Director, excuse
Yes.
me. Public Works Director Richard Simonich is here. He can might be able to provide some information, but he was really just transmitting the county flood control staff's report.
All right, well,
See if anyone in the public.
yes, well, I wanted to see if there was any additional staff report, and then we'll open it for public comment. Is there anything to add at this point?
Your mic's not on.
Mayor and council, no, I have really nothing to add. It's, of course, these are not Town of Ross projects, and I do discuss updates with the county occasionally on where they are with the projects, but that information changes week by week, so I don't really have anything that I can report that's substantive to this topic.
Okay, well, fine, then, if there are no questions at this point from council, let's open it up then for public comment, please, to anyone in the room or anyone on Zoom.
Sorry, I just have one comment here. Do we, as a council, we all provide reports on our various committees. So I just wanted to make a suggestion that maybe our representative to the flood control district come to council and present, a sort of committee report that updates the council on what's happening on the flood control district in a future meeting.
All right, thank you. So I'll ask the town clerk, does anyone have a raised hand then on Zoom?
Charles G.?
Yes, good evening. It's Charlie Goodman, and I want to thank you for putting the item on the agenda. I think it's great to get an update. And, usually the county comes in with items and they get forced on us at the last minute. And so I think it's great that we have this time to just kind of talk about what some of these issues and to give you some background, especially with the new council members. There's a tremendous amount of history that, unfortunately you come on board and it's very difficult to understand. I've been involved in it for over 50 years. I live at the confluence of Ross Creek and Corte Madera Creek. And I really invite you to come down, and I'm happy to meet with you. I think in a lot of respects, it's easier to visualize what has happened over the years and talk to you rather than in a council chamber situation, and talk about the differences between detention basins and sediment basins and overland flows. And so I'm very, very happy to meet with any of the council members, the new ones especially, but even the ones that have been on for a while, and just try to bring you up to date on the history of what's gone on in Ross and the relationships with the Army Corps of Engineers and the county and the members of the community. At this point, I've sent a letter to you, but I just want you to understand that where I live on Sylvan Lane, I am in an area that is not in either one of the flood control projects. And so we have about 18 to 20 homes that are on Locust, Sylvan Lane, Shady Lane, and Sir Francis Drake that are totally left out of both projects. And so we basically would flood, and there's nothing being done for us. So I would certainly like to meet with you and discuss all of that. And thank you very much for putting it on the agenda, and thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, I overlooked that apparently we have a gentleman all right. Yes, please, go ahead.
I'm next, yeah.
Apologize.
Good evening, my name is Jeff Crude. I'm a former mayor of San Anselmo. I was a 4-term council member in my youth when I was in my 50s and 60s, which is still back there a ways. But I'm actually, I well understand why former Mayor Goodman is concerned. The flood zone 9 says there's 5 houses that could flood in the Ross Valley. That's absurd. They're way over that. Which this is not exactly what I came here to speak about this evening. I did want to talk about the fact that you may be aware that San Anselmo overwhelmingly voted to get itself out of flood zone 9. And there were at least 2 reasons. One, which I'm not going to talk about, is the tens of millions of dollars that have been spent for basically for consultants and no gain at all. The main issue to us that created the rebuke of flood zone 9 was the fencing off of what we called the plaza, and the county calls Building Bridge 2. It is located above the creek, situated between, if you know downtown San Anselmo, Creekside Pizza and Creek Park and Michael Feldman's little painting studio. The address is 634 San Anselmo Avenue. I see several nods that you know where that is, of course. The plaza was enjoyed by the community during the pandemic as a park. People would picnic on the plaza Friday afternoons. Local high school kids would do a great job of playing medleys of the Rolling Stones' greatest hits. Lots of pizza and beer was consumed. It turned out to be a very popular attraction, so popular that when the county worried that it was too attractive, they fenced it off. Their flimsy excuse was that it needed minor repairs. And in fact, there were 4 engineering reports that said that it's a very sturdy structure. And what they hung their hat on, relatively, I don't know if this is the exact quote, but I've read all 4 of the reports. All 4 said that it was in good shape. It said, if there were people on it, it could collapse in an earthquake. I'm an architect. I've had my office in San Anselmo since 1975. Any building in an earthquake zone, in a major earthquake, can collapse. It's just a ridiculous thing. It's actually a very sturdy structure. Their estimates are in excess of $4 million to take this thing down. There are other issues, though, with the demolition of the plaza besides the cost and it being a slap in the face of the community of San Anselmo. It also will increase flooding downstream, which is known as the town of Ross and the rest of the Ross Valley. So basically, I'm here just, if you're not aware of it, that there is a major issue with taking this thing down, which our community does not want to do, that the flood zone 9 and the county seems to want to continue to pursue. And thank you for your time and your service.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, is there anyone else in the room here now or on Zoom? Yes.
GGP.
That's Carol Page. Thank you very much. Good evening. I'd like to talk about the future. I think there are 2 areas that Ross would benefit from having more information about sooner rather than later. The first one is the fish ladder removal. That transition is one of the most difficult around, being from the natural channel into the supercritical channel, concrete channel. And if the hydrology and hydraulics are not right, the post office will be in Kentfield and the school children will be enjoying their new pool. So I think the more information you can get, the quicker on that, to make sure that your own consultants agree that this is going to be successful, would be important. The second thing is, I believe that the EIR, the Corte Madera Creek Flood Risk Management Project, EIR, had, if you add them up, 2,400 feet of new flood walls. The thing about flood walls is that they need footings. And the thing about footings in this case is that these walls would be next to existing walls from 1971 and the old channel, which is the same age. It is important, of course, to have stability and safety. The other thing I think that has been proven matters greatly to the people of Ross is trees. And it needs to be clarified whether the 30-foot no vegetation requirement of the Corps is included for those however many 100,000 feet of wall there will be, and where exactly there might be vegetation removal required. The thing that makes Ross, one of the things that makes Ross so very special is the high canopy. And wherever trees can be saved, it is important for the health of fish and people. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else?
Leslie O.
Oh, yes, hi. Maybe I missed this, but was there actually any new information on the flood project? When
The staff report was from February of this year, and we have no updates to supplement that.
is there an expected, are they expected to report in with what's going on or timetables or any of that?
I think this was just to show everyone where things stand with respect to timetables, what the flood district said at their last meeting, and where things stand with, for example, the funding for the fish ladder removal and the other projects. So it's really more of an update.
Thank you.
There are no more raised hands.
I have a comment.
All right, bring it back to council for further
I just,
discussion.
a quick comment. I mean, it was helpful to have the update, Rich, so I appreciate that. I think it was discouraging to see it in that the project we thought we would be finished with years ago, the fish ladder removal, isn't even, on the agenda yet, and it looks like they're $1.5 million short. So I think it's very discouraging, but it was helpful to see the update. So thank you.
Anyone else? Terry?
Thanks, Rich. I know that you work sort of closely with the county and keep in touch with them from time to time to find out what's going on. Do you think it's any value to bring in someone from the county to actually talk about where they are in the process and where the fish ladder is in that process?
I think it's still, I mean, the last time I talked to the flood control was last week, and it was a very quick meeting. They're still looking for funding for the flood risk management project, and they are working with a FEMA consultant on the Building Bridge 2 project. But they had no information, they hadn't reached a point where they could provide something that would be of value. And I think I would be one of the first to know, and I would transmit that to the town manager, and we'd set something up when there was some new news and a schedule. There really is no schedule until they know what the funding is, and they get some path forward with the FEMA consultant.
Has the Flood Zone 9 Advisory Board been meeting at all?
The Flood Zone 9 Advisory Board is only required to meet once a year, really. So this meeting in February was their annual meeting, and I don't know of any other meetings that are scheduled this year.
Any other council discussion? All right, well, let's move on then to, oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I move we
need to-
approve item F on the consent agenda.
Do we need to approve it? Aren't we just getting an
If I may,
update?
Mayor.
Yes, please.
Or excuse me, council member. It's a receive and file, so there's no action that the council's being asked to take on this item.
All right, Very good.
I rescind, I take back my motion.
So that brings us to item 9. Now, we've already considered and acted upon item 9A. That leaves item 9B, 9 Thomas Court. Design review, demolition permit, and town council adoption of resolution number 2425 approving the project subject to conditions. Staff report, please.
The homeowner at 9 Thomas Court is requesting approval from the town council to approve a demolition permit and a design review permit. The project is proposing an interior and an exterior remodel to remove the existing board lap siding and replace it with cedar shingles with a wood trim. On June 21st, 2024, the ADR group indicated that they could support the project if the second-story deck is removed. The applicant has updated the plans and removed the second-story deck. I just wanted to point out that also a separate application has been submitted for ministerial approval for an ADU above the two-car garage. And finally, the staff requests that the town council consider adopting resolution 2425 for design review and a demolition permit for 9 Thomas Court. Thank you.
Does any member of the council have questions of staff at this point? All right, then we will move on to any presentation by the applicant. Is anyone present to present the project either in person or via Zoom?
We have the architect, Dave.
Yeah, we have somebody online.
All right.
Dave J.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, great. So yeah, it's I think fairly self-explanatory, but I'm here to answer any questions if there are any.
Does any member of the council have questions of the applicant? All right, well then, let's open this up for public comment. Does anyone present here this evening or anyone on Zoom have any comment on this project? Apparently, no one is here or on Zoom, so we'll bring it back to the council for discussion and/or a motion.
So I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2425.
I'll second it.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan.
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling.
Aye.
Mayor Kircher.
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins.
Aye.
Councilmember Salter.
Aye.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
All right, then we'll move to item 10 on this evening's agenda. Presentation RE, the fiscal year 2025 budget, adoption of resolution 2426, approving the budget, setting the public safety parcel tax and amending the town's salary schedule, and adoption of resolution number 2427, setting the town's appropriations limit as provided in Government Code Section 7910 for the 2025 fiscal year. Town Manager Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the Town Council, our dedicated staff team, including our consulting accountant, Elizabeth Ford, for the considerable amount of work you and they have put into the development of the fiscal year ending 25 budget. As background, the budget is the town's financial plan for the upcoming year and includes revenues and expenses related to town operations and capital improvements. It was developed based on the continuing objectives of providing high-quality services to the community in a fiscally responsible manner. The emphasis continues to be to sustain financial stability as we continue to support the town's 7 goals, which are right there. The budget provides current services to the town residents, as well as new projects and programs that have been discussed by the town council during the course of the fiscal year, including during the discussion of the capital improvement plan, the 5-year financial forecast, and a draft fiscal year ending 25 budget during your budget workshop, which was held on April 25th. The budget message at the beginning of the budget document provides a summary of the overall budget. It's located behind tab A in your budget binder. Attachment 1 to the staff report for tonight's agenda item lists the budget changes that were made to the draft budget report that you received for your April 25th budget workshop meeting. So the changes that were made between that document and the one that's before you tonight. This is the second year that the budget includes a capital projects fund to pay for the town civic center modernization and rebuilding. By the end of fiscal year ending 25, the town council will have set aside money into this savings account, so to speak, totaling $10 million. The bottom line is that the budget before you tonight is balanced. Since the town council has already spent a considerable amount of time on the budget over these past few months, I will keep my comments brief and end here. If there are no questions from the council, the specific actions requested of you this evening are to receive this brief presentation, adopt Resolution 2426, which would approve the budget for fiscal year ending 25. It would set the public safety parcel tax rate, and it would amend the town's salary schedule. You are also asked to adopt Resolution 2427, setting the town's appropriations limit for fiscal year ending 25. And I'm ready for your questions if you have them. Thank you.
Does any member of the council have questions for staff?
I do have a question after Julie. Julie, you can go first, no problem.
Matt, go ahead.
So there, obviously in the budget, there's quite an increase for the fire, which is noted in the staff report, and we discussed it in the leading up to the closing of our own fire station. There's envisioned savings that are noted in that contract that are supposed to come back to the town of Ross. So it's probably a budget item of 2026 because of the way the calendar works. But those discussions and what the new allocation should be from a cost perspective, I think that we obviously, in conjunction with the changes to the paramedics, et cetera, and how we're going to fund our own reconstruction, we need to figure out what the go forward budget is going to be from Ross Valley Fire and what those savings are going to be and how our allocation should be changed. So I think just noting that for the record, and obviously as we move forward, we should think about how we open that dialogue and how we sort of forecast those savings and how we approach discussions with the Ross Valley Fire Board on, opening up a negotiation.
Yes.
May
Yes.
I respond? Thank you, Councilmember Salter. I want to point out that the JPA agreement, the Ross Valley Fire Department JPA agreement, does have language in there that outlines how the anticipated savings that the town of Ross would realize when the station is closed and the firefighters are redistributed to the other stations, so to speak. It's my understanding that at the time, the expectation was about $300,000 a year would be the savings to the town of Ross. And it is, this happened literally the first month I started working here. I was here for like 2 days when that board meeting happened. And I did work with our town attorney, Ben Stock, on it. And our attempts to try to put in a timeline for that were not received by the board. And the reason is because those savings are going to be are supposed to be generated by attrition and things that aren't. It's not like when our station closes, all of a sudden we start saving money. It has to do with various factors, including attrition rates and what the firefighters are compensated, the ones that they hire. So it's a bit of a formula. So it is in the JPA agreement, and I will certainly work with Chief Mahoney on reminding him about that language because he just became our chief. So I'll make sure we refresh everyone's knowledge of that, and also our two representatives to the Ross Valley Fire Board will have to get a status of that. So Councilmember Salter brings up a good point about that particular issue. Let's find out about it. Maybe it'll affect the 2026. I think that would be fantastic. We'll have to see. As for the town of Ross's contribution rate, that is also in the JPA agreement and it's laid out very clearly. If the town wanted to open up negotiations, that's something that the full council is going to have to consider and provide direction to me and its representatives on bringing that issue up. And that would be a heavy lift. I just want to manage some expectations, because if we pay less, they pay more. So not saying it can't be done, but I'm going to need direction from the whole council to embark on that endeavor.
So, sorry, Krista, the language in the JPA is actually the savings would then be put into a lower contribution rate from the town of Ross. That's how the savings would be factored in. So what my suggestion is to open up that discussion, try to figure out, I know you meet monthly with the other town managers in this JPA and on these issues of the budget, is to start thinking about what would those savings be and how would that lower our contribution rate. And the contribution rate hasn't been discussed or evaluated in 12 years. So I encourage us all to use this opportunity, since there are supposed to be savings that are flowing through to that contribution rate, to open up that discussion and start that before we, absolutely figure out that the fire station must be closed or whatever our plans may be on the Civic Center, because we want to understand what the savings are, what our contribution rate is. And it's a part of all of these discussions that were agreed to when we decided to close the station down. So I think that it doesn't have to be that today, but it's something we should be keeping in mind and something that we should surface, and the best way to start opening that dialogue and figuring out how we sort of begin these discussions.
Okay. Understood.
Yes, thank you, Matt. Julie?
Yeah, I hear what Matt's saying. I'm just concerned about the fragility, is that a word? Fragility of the Ross Valley Fire Board and the arrangement. And I think we need to be careful about raising issues, especially right now when we don't have a good understanding as to where the paramedics are going to be. And so I would defer to the counsel of our two representatives on the Ross Valley Fire Board to kind of feel that out and figure that out. And maybe we need to have another discussion at another meeting with a little more information and a full discussion based on what Matt is bringing up. I somehow left my binder at home. I'm very sorry. And I can't remember. We talked about having a special column for the housing element costs. And I just want to make sure that we're going to keep track of how expensive the housing element has been and will be going forward. Thank you, Liz.
So just so for the record, because Liz wasn't speaking into the microphone, this was actually brought up, I think, by Councilmember Salter at the budget workshop, and Liz indicated that there is a separate line item in the budget, and we are tracking that.
Okay, thank you.
Can you recall the amount? Wasn't it already like $500,000?
Oh, yes, the amount that we've spent thus far has on consultants and legal expenses, no offense, Mary, has been over $500,000 thus far. But we have a lot of implementation actions in this coming year, and I agree it's important to track them, especially because they are, some of them are crossing departmental budget budgets. So it's important to track them, yeah.
Are we also keeping track of the staff time that's spent in complying with the housing element, or is that just kind of part of the standard job?
We haven't been, no, we haven't been, yeah.
Anything else? All right, well then, I will open this for any public comment on these items. Is there anyone present today who wishes to comment, or is there anyone present on Zoom?
No raised hands on Zoom.
All right, very well. We'll bring this then back to the council for any further discussion and/or a motion. I wonder, Mary, can we do this all in one motion, or should we have separate motions, one for each resolution?
You can do them together.
Okay.
Then I move we approve 2426 and 2427.
I'll second that.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes. Both motions pass.
All right, so the next item is item 11. Town Council to receive information on dark skies and lighting standards in the town of Ross and neighboring jurisdictions and provide direction to staff.
Good evening, Mayor Kircher and Town Council members. So during the February 15th Town Council meeting, the council directed staff to provide information on lighting standards on private property and within the public right-of-way. So in terms of private property, the lighting standards already state that exterior lighting shall be directed downward and shielded, that there be no bare bulb light fixtures. And also in September of 2018, in terms of the public right-of-way, the council voted to opt into PG&E's LED replacement program. And then by 2019, over 200 streetlights had been replaced to low voltage LED. During that time, they were replaced to warm lighting of about 2,700 kelvins. And just for my own curiosity, that's about a 75 watt light bulb, which is pretty low. So I don't find those to be intrusive at all. They also exceed the requirements of the Dark Sky International Lighting Management Plan. So staff did do some research on what other jurisdictions are doing. And it appears that that the town of Ross is consistent with neighboring jurisdictions. The model lighting ordinance for the Dark Sky Association includes zones, but they don't always require that the fixtures be fully shielded. So the town of Ross is already requiring that. And so that's above the standard that their model ordinance would have. That in conjunction with the public right-of-way low 2,700 Kelvin replacement program, staff believes that the current code and policies in place at Ross are sufficient in addressing lighting pollution. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And in terms of the public right-of-way, we also have Director Simonich who can address those.
Does any member of the council have questions? I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I thank you for doing that comparison. And it's good to see that we are as good, if not better, than some of our other towns and counties.
I do have a question about the statement that the town also offers shielding on streetlights at locations where the LED lighting might be bothersome to nearby residents. Is that something that the town does on its own, or is that something where that the owner pays a fee or reimburses the town for the cost?
Yeah, so it's a program that we set up and agreed on when we voted to opt in on the LED program. It is by request of the individual property owner that if they would like some shielding, they give us a call, and the town will hire a electrical consultant and come out and put in the shielding, and the town pays for all of that.
Okay. And then I noticed that in one of these other jurisdictions, and I'm sorry, I can't tell you which one, but I think had some limitation on lighting in commercial areas, parking lots, for example. And I know we don't have a big commercial area, and perhaps our only one is really the post office lot. But are there any restrictions on overhead lighting there?
For the public right-of-way?
Yes.
I'm not sure. So along Ross Common and in our commercial district, we replaced the lighting in kind. We tried to match the lighting of the incandescent bulbs with a LED. So a couple lights down on Ross Common as you get closer to Kent were a bit brighter than the 2700 Kelvin. And we did get subsequent complaints that, hey, this light looks really bright. It's not consistent with the other lights up by Ross School. So we went ahead at the town's expense and replaced those lights to be the lighter 2700 Kelvin. But as far as meeting a standard for lighting within the commercial district, I'm not aware of that requirement. Planning may know, but I don't have that information.
All right, but it does appear that overall, most of the lights, or perhaps all of the lights, have been replaced with LEDs that are of the warmer variety, in other words, 2700 Kelvin?
Everything except Sir Francis Drake. Those were stayed as a brighter light for safety purposes, and that was agreed on by the police department. All the dual Cobra heads that run down Sir Francis Drake within the town of Ross are, I believe, 3,000 Kelvin.
Okay.
But the residential streets, we kept at 2,700 per council's request.
Okay. Well, thank you. So let's open this up for public comment, if any. Is anyone on Zoom? Yeah, does anyone on Zoom?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
No raised hands and no one present here? All right. Well, this is not an action item, so thank you very much for the report. Okay, that brings us to item 12, Town Council to waive first reading, read by title only, and introduce ordinance 726 for consideration of amendments to various Ross ordinances. And it looks like there are a whole series of ordinances here. So why don't we then go to the staff report, please? Or staff presentation, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor Kircher and Town Council. So this is a follow-up item based on the April 13th, 2023 Town Council meeting where Council members Breckus and McMillan requested that staff look at amending the ordinance related to replacing exterior siding. Then just in March of this year, the Town Council got a presentation on this item and exterior wall coverings such as siding and stucco, and recommended that staff consult with the advisory design review group on the zoning text amendments for removal and alteration of exterior siding. So given that in ordinance number 726, the recommendation is to update both sections 18.41 and 18.50. So that is the demolition and design review sections of the zoning ordinance, to add text that would say that a demolition and design review shall not be required for alterations of exterior wall coverings made in kind, like for like, including siding direction, width, spacing, texture, and color, And additionally, the demolition permit and the design review shall not be required when replacement of the exterior wall covering, so the siding, if that is required for fire preventative measures, as evidenced by a letter from a home insurance company. Those are the substantive amendments to the zoning ordinance that would allow a homeowner to apply for a building permit instead of going through design review and 2 meetings, so ADR and then the town council, just to replace their siding. And then also if it's for fire preventative, they would then be able to go straight to a building permit. And I would be happy to answer any questions. And the recommendation is, as the mayor said, which is to waive the first reading and read by title only, introduce ordinance 726 for amendments to chapter 18.41, design review, and chapter 18.50, demolition of structures.
Councilmember McMillan?
Just a question, Roberta, on the replacement of siding for fire purposes. Is there any restriction that the replacement be the same color as the existing?
No, there was not.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. So I guess ADR thought that it was important that if there was really going to be a change, a different type of siding, it should go through ADR. Is that why it says like for like is okay, but you can't change the type?
That's correct. They believed that changing the siding to stucco could change the design of the
Okay.
structure.
And then I see it, if you change the color, it needs to go through design review. If you're changing the siding and the color, it must go through design review. But if you're just repainting your house with a new color, that doesn't have to go through design review, does it? So it's
No,
like,
it doesn't.
yeah, so it's like it's a teeny bit inconsistent. I mean, I guess, I don't know if we live with that or if we take out the color part. I mean, it doesn't seem proper that you can repaint your house any color. Well, I mean, maybe all colors should go through design review. Certainly when a house is being proposed, it has to go through design review. But, unless there's a color issue with people painting their houses purple, I don't know that we want to be regulating color, but we are right here and we don't if it's paint. And so I wonder if we should take color out of this to be consistent with our policies townwide.
Yeah, I would be fine taking color out, because as you point out, Elizabeth, you can paint your house any color you want. So it seems a little onerous to me.
I would agree.
I mean, there are, like condo communities or, second home communities where there are strict color guidelines, but I don't really think the town wants to do that. So, so I think it probably makes sense to take color out of everything. I mean, there's no color guide if you paint, so I don't think there should be one here.
I have a question with regard to the language about a change of sightings as required by an insurance carrier. Do we know that they would make this demand via a letter as opposed to some sort of notice or other communication?
Yes, Mayor Kircher. So in the last council meeting, you did see an item, I'm trying to remember the address, I believe it was on Winding Way, where part of the exhibits was a letter from the homeowner's insurance stating that they were not going to renew their policy because they had wood siding. So that homeowner did have evidence through a home insurance policy that their wood siding was the issue why their fire insurance policy would be not renewed.
I get communications sometimes, I'm not speaking just of insurance, but others, that I would not necessarily characterize as letters, but it's pretty clear that they are making a demand or informing us of some change. I wonder, would it, if we could just change that language to be a little broader, like a communication or a notice or communication from an insurer?
May I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Mayor Kircher, you could say something along the lines as evidence by a letter or other form of written communication, so that, an email or a notice would suffice. I think that we just want to make sure we have something in writing, not just somebody telling us, well, my insurance company told me X, Y, Z. So I would suggest that there's an interlineated comment, if the council agrees, throughout all the changes that would say, if you agree with this, as evidence by a letter or other form of written communication from a home insurance company.
Okay, yes, good. I also, just a grammatical point, it says when replacement of exterior wall coverings are required, I'd change that to is required, because I think the subject is replacement. Not a big deal, but I just, since we repeat this language throughout.
I have a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, I'm wondering why at all we even, if it's an exterior, can we just basically strike the entire part about exterior walls or wall coverings? So it says you need to get this permit if you're going to be destroying 25% of the floor area of your structure. And why don't we just leave it with that? And then nobody needs to have any permit to change their exterior. I kind of feel like if we're going to go to the trouble of amending this, why does it matter what someone's doing to their exterior if they're not demolishing their structure?
I mean, I guess ADR said they'd like to have some oversight over the new design if the new siding is a different type. And I feel like we should respect that. The good thing about this is we're making this looser. That is, if you're not doing much to your house, you don't need a permit. And if the insurance company is requiring it, you don't need to do anything at all.
I'm sorry. It's just, I don't understand. So I get if you're destroying 25% of your home, you need this demolition permit. But if you're changing your exterior, I'm just wondering why we need to be so prescriptive here, that somebody has to change it to stucco or they want to put on wood shingles. I mean, why are we so concerned about what someone's doing to their home here? I mean, I understand if they're destroying their home, more than a quarter of it, yeah, there's got to be a demolition permit. But somebody wants to, somebody likes stucco, somebody likes wood shingles. Like, why are we so concerned about that?
I think we've used the ADR people as in a role to preserve the character of the town. And I think it's important if they feel a need to look at this to ensure the overall look and feel of the town. I think it's kind of a good little check and balance. I hear what you're saying though, Matt. I'm all for streamlining, but we need to preserve the character. And I think we also want to respect how ADR views their role and what their opinion is. They're the experts, they're the architects, they're the designers.
And Councilmember Salter, if I can explain, so in that March meeting, I think this question came up. And so one of the examples were, say you had a Mediterranean style building, like the town hall, for instance, and an applicant or a homeowner wanted to replace it with siding. That might not be appropriate to that style of architecture, and vice versa. If you had a Victorian with wood siding, it might lose a lot of its character and sort of the design elements if you replace the siding with stucco. And so that's where I believe this exterior wall covering requirement is coming from.
But so I'm sorry, so we're saying here, fine, we keep that, but if it's required for fire prevention, then they do not need to go through this process, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we may lose this cultural character by just because of requirements. So I just want to make that clear that, you know, it seems sort of, I mean, nobody's trying to make their homes uglier. But you know, we're giving this exclusion for fire. And again, these sort of codes that we're putting forth require our community to pay for these permits. And they require design review to spend time and then the council. So if we're going to amend something, think hard about what are we really preserving here? Because I just find our code to be Byzantine and costly. And that is the feedback that I have received by numerous people. And if we have an opportunity to strike things that aren't required, I think we should do it, because it's just, this is sort of paternalistic to an nth degree, that somebody wants to change their outside of their home and it may change the style and they're not allowed to. It's just sort of shocking.
Yeah, you know, Matt, I sort of agree with you. I mean, siding is not that big of a deal. I mean, if we were trying to simplify things, siding's a good place to start. But I would say we should approve this, because this gives people a break when they've got the insurance companies telling them you can't do anything. I mean, telling them that we're not going to insure unless you replace your siding, and then carry on the conversation with ADR about, you know, is it really an issue is it really a problem letting people replace their siding with whatever they want? And if, you know, so I feel like it's like, this is fine to go ahead with this. This helps people who get letters from their insurance company. And we could continue to discuss with ADR, you know, how rigid do we want to be?
I'd also like to add that part of the housing element implementation plan action items is a design review streamlining that would take the design review guidelines and make them more objective. And so I think that through that process, that would be a good time to look at these exterior wall coverings and how we could be more objective with replacement.
Okay, great. I think, thank you, Councilmember Robbins. That's very good counsel. I agree. Like, I'm definitely for this. I'm just bringing up whenever we are trying to amend something to look if we can do a little bit better modifications. And Roberta, thank you for that comment. And I welcome those opportunities as we sort of dive into streamline things and make it easier and less costly. So thank you.
I would agree that I think we should continue the discussion. I mean, one possibility is that we have some pre-approved, pre-approved types of schemes and colors and so forth, but that list would not include purple, for example. I don't know. It's something we'd have to be careful about, because it only takes one person who finds an exception, and then suddenly we have a scandal on our hands. Have you seen that house, that purple house? Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to open this now for public comment. If anyone is present here in the room or on Zoom who would like to be heard, this would be your opportunity.
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay, bring it back to the council then. Any further discussion?
I move we approve the resolution, but with the striking of color from the resolution.
Just a friendly amendment to include the language from Mayor Kircher about revising the letter.
Yeah, the
Text
notification.
letter, that it include written communication, and then also changing "are" into "is" for grammatical consistency.
Sorry, I revised my motion to also include the grammatical adjustments to the motion, to the resolution.
Second.
If I may, Mayor Kircher, this is actually an ordinance, and so we need to actually read the title of the ordinance. So if I may, the motion with Councilmember Salter's concurrence would be to introduce and read by title only ordinance number 726, an ordinance of the Town of Ross amending Ross Municipal Code, sections 1850 and 1841, involving classes of projects that may be exempt from obtaining a demolition permit and design review relating to exterior wall coverings, with the 3 modifications that the council identified to add the language about other types of written communication after letter, and then taking out "and color," if that's acceptable.
Thank you.
Did we
Is there a
did we already
second?
second it?
I think I seconded it.
All right.
I'll resecond.
First, second. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
All right, so that marks the end of our administrative agenda. And we'll move now to item 13, which are 2 no action items. First, is there any council correspondence that anybody would like to identify or discuss? I wanted to comment that I think in the past, and I'm willing to do this, the mayor has responded to correspondence directed to the entire council, simply thanking whoever's taken the time to address the council for their correspondence and assuring them that we've received this and this will be a part of the record if it pertains to a particular item, that type of thing. Of course, if you have individual correspondence, somebody's contacted you directly, I wouldn't become involved in that. But I'll try to do that. I know we received several letters, particularly on item 8F, and I thought it would be nice simply to acknowledge those who took the time to communicate with us. I thought they were thoughtful letters and helpful. Okay, so that is item 13A. Item 13B, future council items. Any? Nope. Okay, so we will now then move on to item 14, open time for public expression. This is a time for any member of the public to speak about a matter that is within our jurisdiction and not on the agenda. And please limit any comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I didn't time my comments, so I may speak quickly. My name is Cynthia Ronish. Thank you for the time tonight, and thank you for your service. I'm a trustee with the Tamalpais Union High School District. As you may know, Measure A lost narrowly in March. As we look forward towards a potential bond in the fall, we're presenting at school board and city council meetings to provide you with information about Measure A, our next steps, and to ask you for feedback via a Google form that I'll follow up with tomorrow. I'll send to the council or send to the administration. Measure A was a $517 million bond that would have provided funding for extensive facilities needs we face in the TAM district. These needs were identified through a comprehensive facilities master plan process and included significant community input. We faced opposition from the Coalition of Sensible Taxpayers, which included a number of mistruths, including in the ballot argument against Measure A. I want to make sure that you have accurate information. The Measure A funds were allocated by need, and the goal of the facilities master plan and the bond was to ensure that we have comparable facilities at all of our sites after the work is complete. Our schools have varying needs, with TAM and Redwood needing the most significant work, largely because they both have buildings that by state law must be torn down, not remodeled. Measure A's tax rate was identical to other school bonds across Marin and California. The reason we were able to generate a significant amount of money is because of the size of the district, not because it's an unusual tax burden to homeowners. The TAM district educates approximately half of the public high school students in Marin County. The 2 largest projects were slated to begin this summer at Redwood and TAM, which would have saved $26 million in escalation costs. Measure A would have provided the funds for 4 buildings at Redwood High School, including a new cafeteria to keep up with the new state mandate that we provide free breakfast and lunch to all students. The total cost for the 4 buildings, including classrooms, cafeteria, and multipurpose space, was $106 million. I want to be clear that that was not a $106 million gold-plated cafeteria, as appeared in some of the mailers. It is also important to note, however, that our cafeteria is woefully inadequate, as we serve approximately 750 meals a day at Redwood. And if your kids have graduated from Redwood a while ago, Redwood's now a closed campus at lunch. So you can't drive off campus, you can walk off campus, but there's very little around. So the students are taking more and more advantage of the free lunches on campus. At TAM, 5 buildings were slated to be torn down and replaced with 3, a new math and science building, a new career technical building, which is currently auto shop, and a new art and music classrooms, or new art and music classrooms. While senior exemptions are not allowed by state law, our longest-term homeowners have some built-in protection because the rate is based on assessed valuation, not market value. At our last few board meetings, we've been discussing reduced amounts for the bond because we did get feedback from the community that the $517 million figure was too high. So we are looking at proposals of $440 million, which would cover many of the projects, and we're also looking at a $289 million. So we'll be discussing that and be in further contact with you about our plans going forward.
Great, thank you very much. Anyone else online or on Zoom, I mean, with a raised hand? Cindy?
No raised hands
Okay.
on Zoom.
All right.
Could I make a suggestion going forward? Could we move back the time for open time for public expression to the beginning of the meeting? I think I think we're losing comments, and I think it's unfortunate to make someone wait for the whole meeting. And I think the era of Zoom bombing is going away. No?
I don't believe so.
But it hasn't been a problem for us, so maybe if we don't have a problem, we could be, have it at the beginning, and if it becomes a problem, we move it to the end.
I
That way,
I would totally agree. I mean, I think asking people to wait for a very long time for a 3-minute presentation is not reasonable. So, and a lot of commissions, the Board of Supervisors, it's in the beginning of the meeting. So,
and if it becomes a problem, we move it back, but
Right.
this way we accommodate members of the public.
right. And there's another possibility that when people come and speak on items that are not on the agenda, it may mean that it's something that we might want to discuss and put on the agenda at a future meeting.
Good point.
All right, well, that's fine. I became aware of a Zoom bombing of Foster City, which is not in Marin County, of course, in San Mateo County, but we can try that, I think. Well,
We could also look on the, on the computer to see if there are unfamiliar names. And if there are, we could rearrange and move the public comment to the end.
Yes, I check the list to the list that I was given every meeting.
So perhaps,
yes.
perhaps, Mayor, we could follow up in our weekly meetings where we discuss the upcoming agenda.
Yes.
So I'd be happy to do that, and you're the chair, so
All right.
we'd like to do.
All right, well, thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your month, and we will see you at the, if not before, at the 4th of July parade. All right, free candy. Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, see, we have the best meetings, Mary. These are the